check. Hello, check. Level, check. Rob.
What's happening?
What's happening? 1, 2, 1, 2.
Something like that.
Hey, Rob, can I just remember that? Your level?
I'm good.
Well, here we are in Antwerp, Belgium, talking about Master Puppets. It's been 31 years. It's been quite an adventure revisiting some of that stuff. It's hard for me to separate the record from the experiences, from what we lived through for those couple years.
It's like the end of Ride the Lightning to Cliff's death. You know, that is kind of just a, kind of a blur of stuff, because we didn't specifically write the album in one place. It kind of came together, whether it was riffs from, touring with Tank or Venom on, Ride the Lightning, or at home, or wherever we were. And it seemed like at that point in our life, a lot of stuff was happening. A lot.
Back then, everything was so enmeshed with everything else, and it was coming so quickly, and we really didn't have much time to really separate ourselves or distance ourselves from everything that was happening.
Yeah.
So, Rob, thank you for being here, and thank you for being so patient and sitting and
thanks
listening
for
to all
having
this. 1985, that summer of Live Aid, what were you doing?
I was selling long distance phone service, going door to door. And, yeah.
Ding dong. Would you like to?
Exactly. At that time, where we were at in our age, Master Puppets came out. That was sort of, this grand next step, and a really heavy inspirational, body of work for rock and roll.
When I think back to that summer when we were writing, the one thing that stands out is the couch and the TV. The guitars were laying around.
The Carlson Metallica mansion was really had an open door policy for, if you liked metal, come on in,
Open door, as in the door was always open.
Always open.
Day and night.
Yeah. The one thing I do remember is being out there and doing the riff to Master Puppets, and us trying to get Master Puppets together.
I remember you leading me over to the little Fostex machine, and you said, listen to this, it's a riff triple tracked on Mesa Boogie, super heavy, and it was the Master Puppets riff, the main riff. I was just like, whoa, that's killer!
Did that feel like the first stuff that we were circling when we were doing?
I think so. I think it was.
That was the first step towards the making of.
The song was the be end and end all. I mean, it was just all about, and we have to have the best songs.
Because we had lots of little, vignettes or moments that would appear before Damage Inks and things like that. And
Master Puppets and Battery were early on.
Battery Street, that was where a lot of our life was lived,
Right.
It just felt like a home. This is where we get our energy.
Lyrics, manipulation, drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've done that. Been there. Yes. At that point, you're done writing about, headbanging, kill 'em all, and or at least me trying to expand. It sounds like Master of Puppets. Now lyrically, it applies to so many things in life. Being manipulated by many things if you want to let yourself go there. But it wasn't just drugs. It was, and I think that's kind of a sign of a good song.
One of the Disposable Heroes riffs, the verse riff that, the fast verse riff.
Play, which one is it?
Let's get a heavy sound. That riff came out just like, sitting in front of the TV watching those Rock Blast videos. And I think you said, what's that? And I said, oh, it's just something.
Do you remember
It's
like
something.
how do you remember it the next day?
For me back then, I had to keep on playing it to just remember the feel.
Back when we had memories or brain cells, if it was good, you'd remember it.
The good stuff sticks with you, and the bad stuff dissipates. But there was a lot of, we would always just latch on to something the main piece in Orion, which was Cliff's awesome, gigantic musical piece, at one point was attached to Sanitarium.
Yeah, it was the end of Sanitarium. I remember that.
I mean, a lot of these songs are about being scared, of being in situations. What if that was you, you know?
Do you guys remember the first time Cliff played what he was working on with that whole centerpiece for Orion?
He played me a really super rough version of it one time in the hotel room, but it was just the progression. Doom, do, do, boom, 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 geet. And then I remember hearing it like X months later, and it had all these harmonies and all these melodies on it, and I was just blown away because it had grown from just like this little chord progression to this huge opus. I was blown away.
Yeah, he was king of that. He always had lots of different ideas that were layered, and it had its own character because it was bass. And I mean, he was genius at harmonies and layering and unique phrasings, you know, very classical sounding, you know, not your typical rock stuff at all. And he'd always push it one extra little something, you know.
Right.
And that's what was so unique about him.
For me as a bass player, hearing Cliff, you know, make the ultimate statement, that bass break in Orion, which is really important because not a lot of bands were including the bass player that way. Again, that's the composer. You know, I always think of Cliff as sort of this classical musician, but then there's this infusion of punk rock in it, which is very unique, you know. You've kind of got misfits mixed with Beethoven, you know.
Cliff loved chaos that way, musically, you know, where things weren't supposed to be how they are normally, you know.
Right. And I guess ultimately we ended up with the right balance of those different elements, you know, between chaos and order. So we are now joined by Master of Puppets, co-producer, engineer, Metallica 5th, 6th, 7th member. That is such a picture right there.
There you go.
Come on.
Yeah.
I actually remember all of that session. I think we all had the same perspective of where we wanted to end.
It's about sonics and drums
Yes.
and guitars and all that stuff.
This was the introduction of the boogie amp, so you had new boogie amps, and I remember I thought they sounded like so I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, it's like 20 knobs and they do the wrong thing.
Exactly, yeah, right.
And I remember day one, turning knobs for like 5 hours. Flemming, come in. Nope. Okay. Day two, turning knobs for 5 hours. Flemming, come in. Nope.
No.
Day three, and like being frustrated, like anxiety, and like ah.
That was still back then where you weren't too sure about being a vocalist. You were still fighting with
I'm
it.
still there.
Okay, all right, yeah. You were still
We're
fighting.
still auditioning people.
Yeah.
I do remember regretting coming to the part that I saved for last, like in Sanitarium.
Exactly, yeah.
It was like a really high part.
Yeah.
Sanitarium. Really high. It's like, I can't sing that. And you're like, well, James, you knew this was coming. What are you going to do about it? You
So
know?
I was like, no way back.
Yeah.
And I remember Cliff was not a fan of headphones and would stick his bass in another room and he'd jump around in there playing. So you'd see this hair thing jumping up and down in the control room.
Headphones would never stay on that head.
No, exactly.
way.
So yeah.
As soon as you started playing,
And
it
we
was
had
just
we
this
had like
automatic,
we had like a big pair of JBLs that we fired up.
I can remember you complaining about him though, because he'd come into at the top of the session, he'd have one hand a beer, another hand a pipe, drink a beer, smoke, and he'd go, I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm loose now. All right, we don't want you to lose. We want it tight. God damn it.
You know, you were here at the show a couple days ago. We're playing. I was sitting there thinking, as we're playing For Whom the Bell Tolls, it's like, wow, Flemming, who recorded the OG version of these songs, is in this building. What's it like for you, 30 years later, seeing the boys play these songs? And
I get really proud. I think we did a really good job back then.
I think some of the difference between Lightning and this was, you know, reverb was a naughty word.
Exactly,
Especially
yeah.
in the guitar. It's like, no reverb.
Yeah.
It makes it sound far away.
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah.
So that was the beginning of the.
In-
we
in-
want it in your
No,
face.
I remember that
Exactly.
reverb tank sitting over
Yeah.
to the right on the.
Yeah.
We're looking at the desk.
If you listen on headphones on Sanitarium, in the beginning, it's actually all mono. And we did that while we recorded it. We just flick the switch when it goes into the first verse or something. If
Before
you hear on headphones,
automation.
it just goes, what the hell?
That was space age stuff
Yeah, that
for
was-
my head
yeah,
back
that was
then.
like-
I remember
Whoa.
hearing that and going, wow,
that
that's
was
such an
really
amazing
nice, yeah.
sound.
I remember one other seminal moment was the one-note piano
Yeah.
at the very top of Sanitarium. It was
Yeah.
like somebody put a one-note
Yeah.
piano under the first
Yeah.
guitar, and it just, oh my God, that's the greatest thing we've ever heard. It would just
Studio
add.
secrets.
Shh, don't tell.
Hi there.
Michael Wagener.
You got your hair off.
You got my hair.
Yeah.
Good to see you, man.
Metallica, this is your life.
Yeah, exactly.
Michael, thank you for joining us.
Of course.
And coming from Nashville. Tell me, the tapes show up, you put them on.
Metallica was a completely different band from what I was used to work with, but it was damn well interesting.
So it's January 1986 now, and you're holed up at Amigo Records. What were your initial thoughts?
Well, the first line was no reverb. That was the first line I remember. Also, I think the attitude of not giving a from you guys, no, this is what we want. We don't care what's out there right now. And that stood behind every live show, that stood behind everything. I think that was a big part of it too.
When you guys think Master of Puppets, what do you think?
I actually think about Good Times, because it was, and I remember I put it on sometime in the fall of, must have been 86, right? And I went, wow, we did that well.
Well, that was the week my career started.
Okay.
Basically, it was a great record, but I'm not sure if any of us knew how big this record's going to be.
Why is this the seminal Metallica record?
I think you just hit a nerve. You guys just hit a nerve with the songs, and everybody that liked that kind of music all of a sudden was like completely floored. I mean, it was just like such a big boom for everybody that listened to it, and I think that's why, it lasts still to the day.
Master Puppets is really sort of the perfect storm in terms of the balance between groove and power. If you can, headbang to it, dance to it, groove to it, whatever, and you still have that power, which is, again, the metal, element of it. That's a beautiful combination.
When I hear the songs that I've done, I just go, yeah, that's one of mine.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm a big Metallica fan, so yeah, it's cool.
So am I. That's it.
Say goodbye, Lars.
Over and
Bye,
out.
Lars.